kuringana na emotions ability yako ya kuhandle maundu
to amend the Cancer Prevention and Control Act
todo ni ndigikwira ume gwako ni ara ungigoka wakwa nginya uguo we confident uhende tondu ureciria ate tondu counselor ti wa gukumekera decision tukugaida gabara-ini rira ratutwara twakwira ehe haha hena turima hena gathika koguo in short mundu abatie kurekwo uhoti wake wa na thiini mutwire na nikio ndauga atiriri wewe mutumia urorura na nja uguo niguo ugukenete uiguite uguo niguo wega ningi gutara undu umwe aikondo kita kuma nja kihithe biu ndukananyitwo amu haria ukanyitirwo ugakirwo ngi yako imuguraririe ndukaigatwo buru no ni ukagia na giconoko
tukirikia ndireo mataro mega muno ni Regina Karanja ngugeithie ni akwendete muno Esther wa Mwangi good morning na santi ngugi wa murisho mwenyewe arauga tu
Order number 12 the finance bill National Assembly bill number 14 of 2023 second reading.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Take your seats. Take your seats. Order, honorable members. We are now going to order number 12 that has been called out, the finance bill. This is a bill like any other. You know, in the budget cycle, there are always two critical bills, the finance bill and thereafter the appropriations bill. We are starting this bill and the House Business Committee directed that we will debate this bill the whole of this morning, the whole of this afternoon, if there will be enough members interested in contributing, and depending on how the debate goes, it will then spill over not to tomorrow, but after the appropriations bill. Because tomorrow we are starting this bill and the House Business Committee directed that to make the highlight this bill budget of the whole of this morning. In debating this bill afternoon, if there, as you know, be enough members interested in the mover contributing, will have 45 minutes, and depending on how the debate goes, that is not done spill over 5 minutes, not to tomorrow. The chair may indulge him to the appropriations what he wants to present, because tomorrow we are starting this bill and the House end of the committee is reply time directed that to make the highlight this bill. Each member who will all of this morning will be entitled to, in debating this bill, unless you know the House members interested in the mover contributing will have 45 minutes to reduce that period. And depending on how the debate goes, that is not done spill over 5 minutes, and when any member may indulge him to the appropriation chair what he wants to present, because tomorrow we are starting this bill and the House end of the committee is a reply time. The leader of majority and the leader of minority, each member who will all of this morning will be entitled and depending on how the debate goes, debate the bill, then spill over 5 minutes, and the time mastering an amendment to the bill. Tomorrow we are starting this bill and the House end of the committee is a reply time. The leader of majority and the leader of minority, each member who will all of this morning will be entitled more on this afternoon or on Tuesday, depending on how the interest in the debate goes. Everybody will be given an opportunity to debate, and depending on how the event goes, debate the bill, then it will spill over, and the time items are already finished, mastering an amendment coming bill. Tomorrow we are starting this bill and House Business Committee is reply time. The leader of majority and the leader of minority, each member who will all of this morning will be encouraged decorum this afternoon or on Tuesday. Depending on how must be equal to your duty to listen in the debate goes. Everybody will be given an opportunity to debate. Also be and the time items are Yes, Donya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You actually need even a minute to know if this thing is right or wrong. I don't see the sense of having the 10 minutes while each of us need to debate on this bill, we share on our grievances, how we feel about it. When you look at a lady, you can say she took 1 minute to prepare her makeup, not a whole 10 minutes to describe something. As I stand there, you can know that that lady dressed well or bad. That is 1 second. 10 minutes, what will you be describing in 10 minutes? 5 minutes are enough. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, can the majority and minority leader approach the chair? Majority and minority leader. Order, Honorable Dr. Nyikal, please. Honorable Dr. Nyikal, you are one of the most seasoned members. When the House is order, Honorable Dr. Nyikal. Dr. Nyikal, you know, apart from your long professional career in medicine, which controls human behavior sometimes, the chair has tremendous respect for you. And you are the last member I would expect age, profession, and experience to do what you are doing. Order, Honorable Dr. Nyikal. Honorable members, having had 3 members and consulted with your leadership, it's generally a consensus that we can do 5 minutes per member. Any member who will have material to prosecute and the chair is convinced that you have much more to say, the discretion will be exercised. Now I call on the mover to start.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise before you today with a sense of gratitude and appreciation for the opportunity to speak to this National Assembly when you're all looking forward to this great conversation on the Finance Bill of 2023-2024, a responsibility that is mandated. Yes?
You start by saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Finance Bill be now read a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then you move the way you are moving.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that this Finance Bill be read for the second time. Honorable Speaker, I hold a lot of gratitude for the responsibility that bestowed on the Committee of Finance and National Planning as per the Standing Order number 245. The Committee of Finance and National Planning carried out the most extensive public participation in the history of Parliament. Our members of the committee sat between 10 and 12 hours every day listening to the members of the public, listening to various views of Kenyans. Our members of Secretariat sat hours reviewing the over 1,500 memoranda that were sent to us by email, taking care to respond individually to each of those emails with comments and noting those comments in our report, a report that we have annexed that we tabled yesterday that provide annexures of around 3,000 pages. Honorable Speaker, this comes at a time when we also, yesterday evening, we did the estimates and the appropriations, Honorable Speaker. It's very interesting to note that the Committee on Budget and Appropriations Committee, when they are doing their budget participation on the budget, the views of the Kenyans and the Kenyans who appeared before them all came with smiling faces, because they were saying, we want that road completed, we want that dam done, We want connection of water in our homes. We want extension of electricity connection in our homes. But, Honorable Speaker, the experience may not have been the same when we were asking the members of the public on the views of how that budget that they really wanted implemented, we would raise the funds to fund that particular budget, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before I go to materials on the facts of the bill, it comes at a time when this bill faced a lot of falsehoods and political, I would call it political assassination, Honorable Speaker. I've listened to the members of the public, I've listened to members of this Parliament, Honorable Speaker, debating on some matters that will be contained on the bill. And one of them, Mr. Speaker, that I really found interesting and really unfortunate is the miscommunication, for example, on compensation of insurance services. I had members of the public say that if, for example, I lose my leg and I get compensated, then I'm going to pay 16% of that compensation. I had members of the public and even members of this National Assembly say that if an insurable loss occurs and, for example, I lose my car through insurance and I get insurance compensation, then I'm going to pay VAT on that insurance compensation. But, Honorable Speaker, I would like to refer you to page 240 of the bill, clause 30, section 9, and I read verbatim, that where a bona fide owner of a taxable supply who has deducted input tax under subsection 1 is compensated for the loss, that compensation that includes VAT shall be declared and the VAT thereupon remitted to the Commissioner. Or B, if the compensation does not include VAT, the compensation shall be declared and subjected to VAT and the tax remitted to the Commissioner. Keywords here, Honorable Speaker, is taxable supplies. And I want to ask members of this House and members of the public, is insurance compensation for your leg a taxable supply? Is a compensation of your car when you get involved in an accident a taxable supply? Is when the goods of your home get burned because of a fire, is that a taxable supply? And perhaps to get a little technical here, Honorable Speaker, what this clause purports to mean, where businesses actually hold goods that are vatable, then they would have paid input tax on those particular items. So if they get compensated plus the VAT that they ask for a refund, and then they go ahead and charge output VAT on those particular services, on those particular goods, Mr. Speaker, then it would have been deemed they received that compensation for VAT twice. So this double VAT refund is what this clause, Honorable Speaker, was trying to cure, and that is what is contained on the bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to draw your attention to our tax system in Kenya. Our tax revenue as a share of our GDP has remained consistently at approximately 15%. This stagnation is a cause of concern to the Committee of Finance and National Planning, and this is some of the issues that this particular bill, Honorable Speaker, wanted to address. In comparison, Honorable Speaker, with several African countries, Botswana's tax revenue per GDP is at 24%. Mauritius is at 18%. Zambia's is 17%. But, Honorable Speakers, ours has remained consistent at 13% as of 2021. These countries, Honorable Speaker, have managed to achieve higher tax revenue collection rates. The disparity highlights, Honorable Speaker, is a need for us to reassess our tax policy and explore more effective ways of enhancing revenue mobilization. Honorable Speaker, I would like to talk about our economy for the past decade. We have witnessed an evolution in our economy with the emergences of employment opportunities in the digital market space. Additionally, a majority of jobs have been created during this period and have been in the informal sector, employing approximately 80% or 18 million shillings of our Kenyans in 2021. Mr. Speaker, the Finance Bill of 2023 had several tax proposals that will enable the country to increase its tax base, essentially increasing its revenues. The committee carried out the public participation and deliberated on the matters which informed the following decisions. For instance, Clause 2, which deals with the definition of terms, Honorable Speaker, had the definition of winnings when it came to the betting sector, Mr. Speaker. Something that we addressed, and the bill now try to tighten up on those particular winnings so that it doesn't lead to loss of revenues to the government of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, and also it doesn't crowd out potential businesses to live and go and set base outside this country, Mr. Speaker. Clause 5 of the bill suggests imposition of taxes on club entrances and subscription fees for employees. However, if it's implemented, this would result in double taxation, as both the employee and the employer would be taxed on these fees. In response to this concern, the committee made the changes to the clause, allowing that the taxation to be applied only for the employer's income instead. Clause 10, Honorable Speaker, of the proposed registration introduced a new tax called the digital asset tax, specifically targeting the taxation of profits generated from digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies and non-fungible assets, the one we call NFTs. Many stakeholders expressed their desire to have this proposal removed, as they believed it would discourage traders. However, the committee noted that the reason for setting up the tax rate of 3% of the gross turnover is to facilitate compliance and for trading, and also for simplifying the process. It will note, Honorable Speaker, that Kenya becomes now, if this bill passes as amended, Honorable Speaker, becomes one of the first countries in the region to recognize cryptocurrencies and digital assets and bitcoins as a way of a form of payment, as a form of trade, and therefore generating revenue from these particular digital assets, Honorable Speaker. The committee observed that Clause 12 that restricts expenses without ITIMs invoices as complemented by Clause 57. This would exempt individuals from registering in the electronic system management system. The exemption ensures that small traders, the one we popularly known as mama mbogas, and those that are in the formal sector are not negatively impacted by this particular proposal. Additionally, therefore, the commissioner we have proposed will ensure administrative guidelines to address any concerns regarding the implementation of this system. But we have uploaded that there is a need to have every trader and every business person in the country operate within the ITIMS system, Honorable Speaker, and this we realize will enhance both revenue collection and reduce the cost of tax administration. Honorable Speaker, stakeholders expressed their concerns on Clause 20, which would require that withholding taxes be remitted to the Kenya Revenue Authority within 24 hours. They believed that this timeline was too short and would result to an additional administrative expenses, Honorable Speaker. But the proposal here, Honorable Speaker, we have had many institutions, many companies that withhold, whether it's excise duty or VAT, that means they are agents for the collection of these particular taxes, had up to 50 days before they remitted these particular payments to the Kenya Revenue Authority. So, Honorable Speaker, we noticed that by them getting 50 days of these taxes, it means these businesses were being funded through their working capital by taxpayers' money, Honorable Speaker. But again, from having between 20 and 50 days to remit these monies to KRA to under 24 hours, we found that 24 hours was a little too ambitious, and the committee amended that and said we would allow that these businesses can remit these particular taxes within 5 working days. The key word here, working, Honorable Speaker, also takes care of the complexities of weekends and and official holidays, Honorable Speaker. Clause 24 was one other very contested by many stakeholders. They were concerned about the proposal to increase pay rate for individuals earning more than 500,000 shillings. And Honorable Speaker, having really considered this, we found also that our tax bands have not been amended for years. And part of our recommendation, even if you're not able to make this particular amendment in this particular bill, Honorable Speaker, there is need to revise our tax bands for pay because they have not been revised for very many years. But Honorable Speaker, we suggested instead of having the 35% only accrue from 500,000 shillings to above, we add an additional tax band of 500,000 shillings to 800,000 shillings to be charged at a pay rate of 32.5%, and those earning more than 800,000 to be taxed at a rate of 35%, Honorable Speaker. Clause 24 introduced digital content monetization at a withholding tax of 15%. However, we notice that this is, if you compare the withholding tax on other professions, whether it's legal fees, accounting fees, management fees, and all the other professional fees, withholding tax on all these particular fees is at 3%, Honorable Speaker. And that is why we found that charging digital content creators at 500% more was unfair and punitive to this very, very growing sector. And we propose that this withholding tax be reduced to 3% withholding tax, Honorable Speaker. And it's good also, Honorable Speaker, to appreciate the expansion of this particular sector. We have got very, very many Kenyans, especially young Kenyans, who are exerting very, very well on this space. But some people are asking us, then why are we taxing us? I'd like to remind our digital content creators, Honorable Speaker, the teachers that got employed recently that earn an income of 30,000 shillings per month, Honorable Speaker, they pay their rightful share of tax. The nurses that help our mothers deliver in our hospitals, or the nurses that treat our old relatives and the old people in home-based care, pay their rightful share of tax. The doctors that work day and night to save lives of this particular country, the emergency attendants that work in our ambulances, pay their rightful share of taxes, Honorable Speaker. So we are really asking, we are not asking you to pay 15% or digital content creators, that is too much, but we are going to politely ask you to pay 3% withholding tax so that we can generate revenue to connect other people to the national grid of electricity in our villages so that they can also get a chance to also participate in this sector that you are in, Honorable Speaker. And I like the introduction of this has also opened a national dialogue about digital content creators. And they came and told us, now, next time we want you to incentivize us by reducing the prices of our cameras, of the video cameras that we use to generate this content, Mr. Speaker. And views that we have taken seriously as a committee, we will endeavor now to carry them on in our next report, Mr. Speaker. Clause 28 of the proposed increase of VAT on petroleum and Honorable Speaker. reduce the pressure on our imports, Honorable Speaker, therefore leading to a stabilization of our shilling and make the movement of particular sectors and our consumables much more cheaper, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, our committee also introduced an amendment to the first schedule of the VAT Act, incorporating taxable food supplies that are made for the school feeding program, acknowledged by the Cabinet Secretary of Education, Honorable Speaker. During a time when you're talking about reduce the pressure about food security on our imports, Honorable Speaker, therefore leading to a stabilization of we have seen efforts even by county governments, the movement we have seen efforts by and our consumables. Our best serving example is Honorable Speaker, our committee also introduced an amendment to the first schedule of the VAT Act that have incorporating taxable food supplies that are made effective for the school feeding program at I think only 20 shillings per meal, Honorable Speaker. So what we have done is an introduction to introduce to the first schedule of the VAT Act taxable so food supplies that are made to school feeding programs to be zero rated. This means that those school feeding programs that are counties that are different institutions are trying to start in our schools then are going to be incentivized and are going to grow, Honorable Speaker. And I think another example is what Mombasa Cement is doing in Mombasa by having a school feeding program that almost feeds all school going children in that particular county, Honorable Speaker. The committee observed that this was going to lead to a potential loss of 100 billion shillings, money that we have now got back in the bill, and therefore the deletion of this particular clause would introduce that to be able to raise an additional 100 billion shillings on the Speaker. Taxable, so food supplies that are made was another contended issue, Mr. Speaker. This clause required that if you went to court and you had a tax dispute, and you went to tribunal, and you lost the case, this if was going to appeal your case to lead to a potential loss of 120% money that we have now of the disputed amount back in the bill, and therefore the deletion of this particular clause we introduce that to be able to raise an additional 100 billion shillings. Rights of taxpayers to access justice. Clause supplies that are made, it was another contended issue, Mr. Speaker. To require somebody who seeks legal redress because it's that feel aggrieved, you went to pay a deposit and you had a tax 20% for it, and you went to urge this tribunal to carry on the case proposal for deletion if was going to appeal the case to lead to a potential 20% money that we have now of the disputed amount back in the bill. Honorable Speaker, the deletion of this particular action we introduced that to be able to raise an additional 100 the decision of clause 59 from the bill, Honorable Speaker, it was another contended Tax Procedures Act and general provision relating to objections and appeals. And this, Honorable Speaker, was opposing restrictions to access to justice and a proposal that, Honorable Speaker, we say they be deleted. Clause 61, Honorable Speaker, regards to Section 84 of the Tax Procedures Act. The committee proposes that 61 be deleted due to its punitive nature of concerning the tax shortfall penalty. Currently, Clause 61 imposes penalties for tax shortfalls without taking consideration of innocent and inadvertent errors made by taxpayers. Honorable Speaker, this clause said that if you underdeclared your taxes, or the Kenya Revenue Authority felt that you had underdeclared your taxes, that they would penalize you for it. And we felt it may not have been deliberate. It could be an accounting error that was done when you're filing your returns, and therefore we have deleted that requirement for that particular penalty to be imposed on taxpayers. Clause 62 on penalties for failing to comply with the Electronic Systems Act. This amendment is to insert a new section 86 that aims to modify the penalty provisions related to non-compliance with the electronic tax system, making the penalty more reasonable and conducive. Honorable Speaker, this particular proposal was recommending that if you were not on e-teams or if you are found that you needed to issue an iTax receipt but did not issue one, then you would be fined 10 times more. You'd be required to pay a fine of 10 times the amount that was tax due. Honorable Speaker, in as much that we want to enforce compliance with this particular tax system, we felt a fine of 10 times more was too punitive, and Honorable Speaker, we propose that the penalty only be 2 times of the tax due, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are proposing an amendment to the bill to include a new clause 67, and this, Honorable Speaker, wants to address the powers granted to the Commissioner regarding the adjustment of specific rates of export levy. Currently, Section 5.4 allows the adjustment of the specific rate of export levy to account for inflation. However, it is proposed that this provision be removed as it mirrors Section 10 of the Excess Duty Act. Clause 6 of the bill already seeks to eliminate the Commissioner's power to adjust specific rates of excess duty based on inflation. The rationale behind this proposed amendments is to ensure consistency in the treatment of specific rates for both export levy and excess duty, Honorable Speaker. Clause 76 of the bill on the deductions of the National Housing Fund, Honorable Speaker. Another very contentious issue. We listened to the view of Kenyans, and Kenyans told us it is a good thing to make houses affordable to the public. It's a good thing that somebody who rents an apartment in Kîgîna or in Section 58 or in either part of the country and pays rent have an alternative of paying the equivalent of the rent but get to own that house at the end of a particular period, Honorable Speaker. Mortgages, access to mortgages still remain a privilege of the high-end people in this particular market, Honorable Speaker. Stakeholder that we met told us, yes, it's going to lead to job creation. The doors that are going to be made, the windows that are going to be made, the suppliers for those particular goods, the people that are going to provide the rest of the service, that is the spiral effect of it. The people are going to sell food into those particular units, Honorable Speaker. We felt, they said there is a need for this particular housing fund, Honorable Speaker. But they were worried about the how. And they were telling us, for you to start us off with 3% of our basic pay, it is too punitive. They told us, and one of them, I remember, looking at me on the face and telling me, Honorable Chair, if we cap this particular housing fund to 2,500 shillings a month, and you tell me that I'm paying 3%, you're not paying 3% of your basic pay. You're actually paying around 0.0045 of your basic pay. And they said, this is discriminative. We feel that you people that are earning a lot more want to pay much less than us. Because I get to pay my rightful share of 3% if I'm earning around 80,000 shillings a month, but you who is earning 500,000 shillings, because you have capped that contribution to 2,500, you pay 0.0045%. Honorable Speaker, we listened to the view of these Kenyans, and we propose a reduction in the housing fund contribution from 3% employer and 3% employee to 1.5% employee contribution and 1.5% employer contribution, Honorable Speaker. And it's very important to note that the capping that was capping the contribution to 2,500 has been removed, because this would have been discriminative against those people that are earning less, because those people earning less would have paid their rightful share of the 1.5%, but you and I that have a higher pay slip then would get to pay much less or a higher percentage, Honorable Speaker. We have also established that these funds will go into the consolidated fund, Honorable Speaker, as per the PFM Act. Mr. Speaker, the shift towards the informal sector also poses challenges to our tax revenue. As the economy diversifies, the jobs opportunities arise in all sectors, it has become crucial to expand our tax base. Honorable Speaker, Kenyans told us that the few of us are paying taxes, but there are so many others that should pay the rightful pay of tax that are not paying. And key in point was the small businesses. And Honorable Speaker, on the proposal to have the turnover tax have a threshold of 500,000 shillings would mean that those people selling around 1,000 with the sales of around 1,600 shillings a day would be required to pay a turnover tax of 3%. Honorable Speaker, we saw this band too little, and we have therefore proposed to increase this band to at least 1 million shillings sales per annum to 25 million shillings per annum as those Kenyans that would pay the turnover tax, Honorable Speaker. And you're also telling them, people are asking, why are you taxing me on gross instead of taxing me on profit? And Honorable Speaker, we have told them that at the end of the year, you do not have to pay turnover tax. If you want, you can pay the corporation tax at 30%, but then you'll have to calculate your revenues and deduct your tax allowable expenses. And many Kenyans were like, I don't want to go through that process. Tell me how much I need to pay because I want to pay my rightful share of tax. I'll pay that, and we absolutely move forward, Honorable Speaker. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I really would wish to thank the members of the committee. It was very tedious work. It was a lot of work. Most of us still have a back problem even now. Our members of Secretariat, they have been doing almost 24 hours of work to make sure that we put this particular report in order, Honorable Speaker. And because I want to give as many honorable members as possible to contribute to this particular matter, I only have one last statement to make, Honorable Speaker. The difference between tax exempt and high-end people in this particular market, Honorable Speaker. I find it quite baffling that we use this tax exemption and zero rate for this particular interchangeably. If they are as different as heaven and earth. Because when services or products are exempted from tax, it means that those businesses cannot claim their input tax. And that makes the price of those particular products at least 16% more expensive. And that is why, although the bill proposes to exempt manufacturing of fertilizer, manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, manufacturing of human vaccines, manufacturing of pesticides, agricultural equipment, transportation of sugarcane from factories, from farms to factories, to be tax exempted. This committee, Honorable Speaker, has recommended in our report that these particular products and services be moved from tax exemption to zero rate, so that that transfer of that manufacturing of fertilizer, manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, manufacturing of medicine, manufacturing of human vaccines, that benefit be allowed to be transferred to the consumer by making those particular products 16% cheaper, Honorable Speaker. But we are hoping, and this I want to really urge the Kenya Revenue Authority to make sure that they enforce that once we transfer these particular privileges and this zero rating of these products and services, that benefit be transferred to the consumer. We want to see the price of LPG gas and LPG cylinders go down by 16% if this House approves this particular recommendation, Honorable Speaker. We want to see the cost of locally manufactured fertilizer go down by 16% if this particular proposal is accepted by this Honorable Speaker. We want to see the price of locally manufactured medicine and human vaccines and pharmaceuticals and agricultural pesticides go down by 16%, Honorable Speaker, if these particular proposals are accepted by this House, Honorable Speaker. We have a very ambitious, this bill has an ambitious plan of exporting mobile phones across Africa, Honorable Speaker. We have seen the demand of smartphones and mobile phones in this country, and we have a big potential to manufacture them. The manufacturers of mobile phones came and told us that, Honorable Committee members, if you zero rate these products that are used as raw materials for assembly of mobile phones, we would be able to manufacture mobile phones in Kenya, smartphones in Kenya at a cost of at least 8,000 shillings and be able to export this to other African countries, Mr. Speaker. We found this very revolutionary, and we urge this House to support this particular amendment, Honorable Speaker. We have had a huge influx in a digital space in terms of digital lenders, Honorable Speaker. But we found that the excise duty and the VAT on the transaction fees on digital platforms for mobile money and for digital lenders was discriminatory against that of the banks, because banks were getting preferential treatment by getting preferential rates. But, Honorable Speaker, our report aims at harmonizing the rates that are being charged by digital lenders and microfinance institutions to that of the banks, Honorable Speaker, so that we create a level playing field. Honorable Speaker, some of us, when we left school, the first thing we wanted to do was open a bank account. The people that are leaving school, the first thing they want to do is not open a bank account, is to have a digital wallet. And we're saying we need to incentivize this space. This is the next frontier in financial inclusion, and we are asking this Honorable House to agree with us and pass our report, pass the amended finance bill as proposed by the Committee of Finance and National Planning. And with those very many remarks, I want to donate the rest of my minutes so that this House can extensively debate this particular matter, and hopefully our good idea can give birth to a great idea, and that great idea can give birth to the greatest ideas. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I support, and I ask the Vice Chair of our committee, the Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Langat, to second.
Thank you, Honorable Kimani. Who is seconding you? Danger.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity to second this bill, and I rise to second this finance less than a year ago. Some of the issues that were transacted or canvassed, Mr. Speaker, were mainly three issues, Mr. Speaker. One of them was cost of living. Number two, Mr. Speaker, our level of public debts. Number four, Mr. Speaker, is empowerment of the youth. Mr. Speaker, it is in the public domain that our public debt is the highest ever.